Good evening, welcome to Vinyl Happy Hour. Again, we have so much to fit into this video, so much to celebrate. There's so many great things going on in the music world. So we're gonna help break it down for you, and that's what Vinyl Happy Hour is. I'm Skyler Davis from Culture Shock Clothing and Records here in Rockford, Illinois. I've owned this record store for almost 13 years now, but I've been a music fan my whole life, digging through vinyl, playing vinyl, and just being into all sorts of different bands and music. I'm going to start the top off with one of my favorite records here that just came out. I have a pop album to talk about. We've got some psychedelic stuff. What else do we have here? We've got some classic soul. We've got the God of Metal, and then we've got the Gods of Metal to talk about. So if you're watching this live, let's see if you can guess what I'm talking about. Who do you think might the God of Metal be? And then other persons, who do you think the Gods of Metal are that I'm hinting to? And of course, we're having a drink. So every Thursday night for Vinyl Happy Hour, we talk about at least 5 different releases that we think you should know about. Plus, we cultivate maybe a holy grail or a rare item or some used records too. And we have a drink, typically a bourbon. New releases come out every Friday. Plus, we stock our store with used records every Friday to keep our weekend crate diggers happy. And we get a little deeper into it, not just about what's being released, but more about the design of it, who's in the band, and what's interesting about that release. I talked about so much to celebrate. Of course, another great week of new releases. So hard to pick what I want to feature or talk about on Vinyl Happy Hour. Another thing is we're doing some live music at the store this weekend. Our friends in Flatfoot 56 are coming to play at Mary's Place this weekend in Rockford, and Saturday night they're going to do an acoustic set in our store. So we're really pumped about that. Other big news in records, Record Store Day has announced the list of what's coming out this year on April 13th. It's a freaking huge list. There's about 500 different releases coming out. So we've been working really hard to figure out what you're looking for and what we can actually get into the store for April. So keep tuned with us for more updates about that. I'm gonna jump right into a drink though first before we talk about some of this stuff. I have another new bottle. I have tasted this before, perhaps at like a bourbon bar or some other places. I've never had a bottle of my own. I was doing some shopping. This was back closer to Christmas time and treated myself to the special Christmas case of Four Roses. Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, and it was like in a gift set for like Christmas and stuff, and it came with some glasses. Evidently it's the 130th anniversary of Four Roses bourbon, so let's celebrate to that. Nice, Lauren has some over there. 130 years ago, this company was started by Paul Jones Jr. Lauren's got her whiskey there too. And he evidently proposed to the love of his life, gave her 4 roses, and she wore 4 roses on her wedding gown at the wedding, and he changed the name of whatever his whiskey company was to 4 Roses after that. So that's the story of that little ditty. I know we've said you can say something's really smooth. This one, Lauren, you agree, is quite smooth. I mean, there's not a really harsh burn to it or anything. It's a lot of flavor and a really long, lingering, smooth aftertaste too. Up front, there's just maybe a hint, always going to be a little bit of chard, a little bit of wood, but there's a little pecan in this. It even has just the slightest aroma of apple. Obviously, this isn't like biting and sweet or anything like that, but it is a good, smooth bourbon. Would be great with cocktails too, for not taking away from the cocktail mix, but I like to just sip and eat. That's the good, easy way. So that's a great one. Pick that up at our local liquor store. I noticed what was really cool about the local liquor stores, some of the bottles they had special gift packages, different size bottles, and some of them came with, this one came with 2 free bourbon glasses. So that's cool. Let's start right off though with this one right up top. I know it's beautiful. Look at that splatter vinyl. Purple and pink and blue splatter vinyl. I've had this talk before too. I know a lot of people have been leery about color vinyl, splatter vinyl, picture discs. Coming from these guys though, this is the Claypool Lennon Delirium. This is a great pressing. This is ATO Records, ATO Records, whatever you want to call it. Sounds beautiful, superb. This album is a trip. I mean, you can easily up front start thinking, oh, Les Claypool from Primus, Sean Lennon, he's going to sound like his father, you know, we're going to have a lot of Beatles or something like that. True, it does have a lot of those elements, and if you're fans of those bands, you're probably going to like this too, but it's a lot different. It's a really cool trip. It's proggy, psychedelic. It's just a mysterious little delirious trip. I really enjoyed it. It's a double LP, nice long tracks. Almost every song's 5 to maybe 7 or 8 minutes long, so you can really get into it. Claypool is all over. His range of bass and his range of vocals. He produced the album too. It's just amazing. Let's check out the artwork though. It's so cool. I love the artwork on it. Nice little gatefold shows those guys inside. It's a double LP, like I said, comes with a download as well. I love that it's got the little sticker on the front so you know that you are getting color vinyl, so you know what's going to be inside. They did a great job on the album, though. There's some really cool videos on YouTube for it, too, if you want to check out the videos they made. But this record is definitely one to have. That's what's funny about vinyl is sometimes you just have to keep up with your record store, keep up with your local record store to get what you're looking for. This actually came out last week. I couldn't feature it on that episode because we were already sold out of them. We're actually already sold out of them again for this weekend. But if you're one of our customers, keep in touch with us or drop us a message, and we will certainly let you know if we can get one in for you or hold one for you. That's the great thing about having a connection with your local record store. We'll work with you and get what you want. That's our second album, so it's pretty cool. The next one, see, I was just talking about the demand for records. Look at this. You'll notice I'm not holding up any records because, well, this one isn't out yet, and this one was in such high demand, or they're trying to get out. We didn't get it in time. Weezer, what do you think about this new album? The Black Album. It's going to create a lot of critics out of people. Obviously, I started out with Weezer with their Blue Album, going back to their first of the 13 albums they have out now. That just set it so high for them. They could, I don't know if they could ever recapture that Blue Album for all of the older fans who started out with that. I can tell you just from talking to people at the store and kids at the store, people who are starting out with newer albums and finding Weezer to be more of a pop band than that garage or emo band that we first knew them to be, are still liking Weezer. Weezer still has a huge following. That's undeniable. Their pop sound is so smooth, jangly. They're obviously, you know, a little sarcastic about some of their fans that want to have their old albums. They can't do the same thing over and over. So good for them. They've done another album of color. It's called the Black Album. They had the green album, the red album, the blue album. This is definitely a lot poppier, a little different. They even put it out on cassette. We are getting the special limited indie store release. It's like clear and black vinyl mixed together. We'll have that in Tuesday. So if you need a copy of that, drop us a message, let us know. We will have that in. That's their new album. But even though we've been hearing about this for like a couple years, they went up and released this Teal album of all covers. They did TLC and, of course, Africa song, the Toto song Africa. Well, this, great news. This is coming out on vinyl Record Store Day. They're doing a limited run of this just for your independent record stores. So we do have the CD in, but if you're looking for the vinyl version, that'll be April 13th. Definitely, like I said, Weezer can definitely grow on you. Some of their newer stuff, I remember when they changed and went with Pinkerton and some other albums, I was like, what is this? It did grow on me, though. So definitely check that out. Next one, let's talk about a little oldie. There's some kind of interesting stuff about this. So since I'm a little younger than when this was recorded in, what, 63? This is Sam Cooke live at the Harlem Square Club. This is a beautiful, scorching classic soul album. I just recently learned something really interesting about it, though. This is a brand new pressing of it. Analog Spark, they're doing the best sources from analog tapes, the best pressings, the best quality jackets, nice thick jackets. They're doing a great job with their pressings. They've done all sorts of different things. And this sounds beautiful. I mean, the live sound of this, though, is great. Sam Cooke, everything he did was great, from his gospel stuff to all of his soul ballads and his soul screaming jammers. I love the guy. He was a great guy. It's real tragic about how he died and all that stuff. But there's something really weird about this album. This was recorded in 63 and was scheduled to be released and everything like that. He died shortly after, I think, mid-60s or something. This never got a release. I've noticed the year on it. Until 1985. This was shelved by the record company and didn't even get released. The other really interesting thing about this album is, like I said, it's a soul scorcher. He is really communicating with the audience and stuff like that. He did played lots of mostly white venues, actually, and stuff like that, and went to a lot of places where a lot of black performers weren't going, but this was live in front of a mostly black audience at Harlem Club, and he was on fire. The band was on fire. You can hear that live energy in the recording. It's so cool. But it's just such a shame that it shelved for 20-something years before it got released. So that's just kind of a weird thing that one did not come out. So if you were a fan of him back then, that would have been so weird to not be able to hear that album or hear him in his perfect live form like that. Luckily, it's out now. It came out in the 80s, and now it's still being printed. So that's just a really great album, like I said. Sometimes hearing a live performance can be kind of whatever, but this is definitely hearing him in his prime with the band. Do check that out. Have you guessed who the God of Metal is yet? You might not even know him, but let's talk about Thor. This actually came out, I think, maybe digitally a year or two ago, but it's out now on vinyl. This is Thor, the metal Avenger. If you don't know about this guy, he's been playing music for quite some time. He's a Canadian power metal, power body lifter, whatever you want to call him. He was doing music in the 70s and 80s. This is on blood red vinyl. It's such an interesting story. I think most people might know about him because there was recently a documentary about Thor. He is everything that epic metal that you picture, you know, like that Judas Priesty kind of like Manowar, if you know any of those bands, like everything's epic. They're wearing spikes and helmets and leather and just being crazy epic metal gods, you know. That's how this guy was. He's a performance artist, really, per se. He would lift women up while he was performing and stuff like that, and flex his muscles and wear crazy metal outfits and just stuff like that. He was crazy, but it was funny watching the documentary about him that I think Jerry Only called him up after Glenn Danzig had left the Misfits, and he actually was offered to maybe be the vocalist for the Misfits and stuff. That would have been crazy. But Thor, if you haven't listened to it, it's definitely in line with that kind of power rock metal cheesiness. It's almost like more the simplicity of Kiss with the heaviness of like Manowar. It's nothing super brutal or heavy. It's just rock and roll, heavy metal style, very epic. A cool story about him. So yeah, that's Thor. Interesting though that they did on colored vinyl too. That always hooks me when they do that. The gods of metal, have you guessed yet? I'd say they invented metal. This is Black Sabbath. I just have to show off the packaging for this though. This is called the Ultimate Collection. And this came out a couple years ago. But the way it opens up, it's a 4-record box set, a collection of music from their whole career. But it opens up into the shape of a cross. It's got each one of the members featured as the quadruple gatefold opens up. Yeah, I need some help. Check this out. All the packaging unfolds and opens up into the shape of a cross. Obviously, it's the same cross that I've seen them wear. And of course, Ozzy has one. Just such cool packaging on this, though. The way that all opens up and houses all the records. So this is the Ultimate Collection. What's cooler about this than We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll is the sound quality, though. If you know the double LP, We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll, it's okay. It sounds okay. It's not that great. I think they crammed the songs on there or did something with the masters. I don't know what. I know I like to bring that if I ever DJ on the side, because then I have all the Sabbath songs in one set. But especially at a loud volume, which is how you want to play Black Sabbath, it doesn't sound that great. It's very thin. So I'd rather play their individual albums or maybe something from the Ultimate Collection, just because the sound quality is there. Plus, we can't get over how cool that big old quadruple gatefold is. So yeah, let us know. I'd love to know what is one of the coolest packages, records that you have, coolest packaging records that you have in your collection. Drop us a comment. I want to take a look at it. I'm always interested to see the packaging that goes along with the record, that tells the story of the record. I just really appreciate that. And of course, a lot of labels are doing indie store exclusives, certain colored vinyl, things like that. So this has just been flooded with all these great releases coming out from new artists and reissues of other classic things. The bourbon world and the distilled world too has had so many great drinks and craft drinks coming out. So I'm always interested to check out what you're drinking. Drop us a message. Let us know what's your drink of choice. Permanently or this week or whatever, you know, I'd love to find out all these different distilleries that are doing things. So cheers. Check us out next Thursday night for Vinyl Happy Hour again. Thank you so much.